Hello, everybody. Local government is very, very important. You may get the opposite message from the mainstream media that tries to tell you that, well, local government isn't that important, really. All the main decisions happen in Westminster. Just leave local government alone. Leave it to the people who are experts and councillors and so on, and don't try to get involved and rock the boat there. Now, of course, national government is very, very important in Westminster, but local government is equally important to everybody's everyday life, because your councillors in your districts and your boroughs and your counties, and if you're unfortunate enough to have a regional mayor or a metro mayor as well, they make decisions that affect your streets, your lighting, whether potholes get fixed, what happens in your libraries, whether parks get maintained regularly, what happens in housing and planning, whether there are huge developments going on the green belt or the countryside or farmland, whether they approve plans for solar panel arrays or wind turbines on farmland or countryside land, or whether they give permission for 5G towers to go up all around your towns and cities and even in the countryside as well. Those decisions are made at local level. And of course, the Uniparty, the fake Con Lab Lib Dem Green Uniparty, which is pushing through horrendous repugnant regulation at speed in Westminster, is also imposing repugnant plans at local level, which I would suggest all go against the wishes of local people and what makes life good for local people. They all together are pushing the idea of a climate emergency, and under that, they then roll out plans for low traffic neighborhoods, 15-minute cities, what they call active transport, which is walking and cycling. Now, nothing against walking and cycling at all. I do both of those myself. But the problem with that is that they introduce anti-car measures and prioritize just walking and cycling and make life difficult for people who've always been able to drive their cars or their vehicles around their own towns and cities with no problem up until now. And the other thing that they do, which I think is utterly horrendous, is that they change the character of our historic towns and cities. They will leave old buildings to go dilapidated, and without looking after them or caring for them for years and years. And then they come along and say, oh, well, this building is unsafe now, we need to knock it down. Whereas if the councillors had actually looked after our historic buildings, as some places do, but other places don't, then we wouldn't have any dilapidation of historic buildings in our town, cities and centres. And we really need to look after our history and our heritage and the beautiful old buildings and beautiful city centres which have been passed down to us from generations past. It is our duty to look after our heritage, to enjoy it, and to pass it on to the generations that come after us. It would be an absolute indictment on us if future generations look back and say, well, what happened to all these beautiful historic buildings in the early 21st century? The people there didn't care enough to look after them, and they knocked them all down because they let them get dilapidated, or even worse, they knock them down for ideological reasons which make no sense, because they say, oh, these buildings aren't meeting net zero targets, therefore we need to knock them down and build some horrible carbuncle which has got a smart meter in it. You know, that's what is going on in our local areas, and local councillors are implementing all of these things. Of course, I'm the leader of the Heritage Party, and the Heritage Party and our candidates all oppose those things. We would look after our history and our heritage and our farmland and our countryside, and make sure that people who need to drive around their own towns and cities, whether it's for their own business or whether it's for caring for someone, or whether they're tradesmen who needs to travel around to get to a place and do a job with a building, or gas fitting or plumbing or whatever, they need to drive around without being threatened with fines and with obstacles that make the journeys 2 or 3 times as long, and therefore it makes Jobs cost even more for the people who are receiving their services. So all of these is a vicious circle. Everything they're doing is a vicious circle together for ideological reasons, and it needs to stop. And of course, another thing that the Heritage Party, and our candidates are all absolutely opposed to is allowing things like drag queen story time into libraries to introduce or present depraved performances and materials to the very youngest of children. This should not happen in any country, anywhere in the world, ever. But it is happening in England now because we have Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green councillors who approve these things, and they also approve degenerate and perverse materials to go into schools as well, including primary schools. And I think that is utterly abhorrent. And we would stop that immediately if we had people in the councils. So that's just some of the reasons why it's important to get involved in local elections. And I'm saying this again today because today is the last day that I can take applications for people who want to be candidates in this set of elections for local government in England this year in 2025. Obviously, the elections are on the 1st of May. That's a few weeks hence. But the deadline for handing in your nomination forms to the council's election offices is next Wednesday, the 2nd of April. So for me and the Heritage Party to have enough time to process any last-minute applications for candidates, you need to get your application to me and the Heritage Party in today so that we can vet everyone and get the paperwork signed and done for you by next Wednesday, which is the deadline for the councils. So today is the deadline for the Heritage Party. Next Wednesday, the 2nd of April, is the deadline for the councils. The elections are on the 1st of May. So then there's a month or so of campaigning from now until election time. So please do consider getting involved and standing to be a councillor if there are elections in your local areas. There's 23 local council areas in England where elections are going ahead. Obviously, 9 of them have been cancelled. They were scheduled in Sussex, Surrey, Hampshire, Isle of Wight, Essex, Thurrock, Suffolk and Norfolk. Those people are suffering under Labour's war on democracy, where they cancelled elections and they said ostensibly, they're going to be next year, but who knows, they might cancel them again because they don't know what they're doing, apart from the fact that ultimately they want to impose Sadiq Khan style regional mayors on every county in England, which will be a disaster, as I've said many times before. And I think you all understand how bad that would be. I'm actually just in the process of updating our manifesto. I do that once a year. And one of the things which was a great suggestion someone gave to me in a conversation, it was on my lines of thinking anyway, but it would be to of course, abolish all regional and metro mayors. That's already in our manifesto. But to try to get there to be 2 levels of local government, that's all you need, really. People often get confused between the district and the county, and Labour are exploiting that and then saying, well, we need to abolish the districts. But this is an idea. Why not abolish the counties and put the functions of the counties into the districts, so everything will be done much more locally to ordinary people. So you would only have one level of council to go to, which would be easy. You'd know where to go. There wouldn't be any confusion between district and county, but the services provided would be at a much more local level to you, and then also give more responsibility to the parishes. So rather than having county and district and parish, let's just have district and parish, and then everything is more local to the people. That is proper devolution, not this fake devolution, which Labour are trying to bring, which actually is the opposite of devolution because it's taking power away from local people and putting power into the hands of distant unitary authorities, which are county-wide or maybe even more than county-wide. They want to, for example, merge Leicestershire and Rutland, so put two counties together in one big local county authority, and then have a metro mayor on the top, or regional mayor, which would be one person making all the decisions, for which the entry fee for the elections would be £5,000 or £10,000. So no normal person would be able to even consider standing in such an election. So it actually then concentrates the hands in people who will then be obviously given money by their party machines in order to keep the uniparty in power and making these decisions and pushing the climate emergency ideology and the wokery and the immigration and all this kind of stuff. We don't want that. We want to get power more localized towards local people. So I'm actually going to put in our manifesto that we would advocate for local government to be run by districts and parishes, and not distant unitary authorities and regional mayors. So I think that makes sense, and I think that's something that a lot of people will see the sense of. But that's just something that's an adjunct to the main thing I'm talking about, which is getting involved in local elections. So this is the day to decide. So please, if you can, come and join us in the Heritage Party, put yourself forward to be a candidate, and try to do everything you can to get involved, get active in restoring our nation. Thanks for listening, everyone, and God bless you all.